All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, I regret to inform everyone that Joe Rogan is canceled. At least that's what you may think if you're a member of the elite media or the Democratic establishment, who came out in full force this weekend to destroy the #1 podcaster, whose crime it appears is saying on his show that he would probably vote for Bernie in the Democratic primary. For those who may not be familiar, this entire mess began Thursday afternoon, with Sanders tweeting a clip from Joe Rogan's podcast in which he says he'll probably vote for the Vermont senator. Now, white feminists and other outraged losers on Twitter quickly went into overdrive trying to paint Rogan as the voice of the disaffected, misogynist, transphobic, racist men because of some supposedly problematic things that he said on the show over the years. Now, professional wrong person Jason Johnson tweeted, quote, "By promoting Joe Rogan, Sanders is dog whistling that his campaign is a safe space for aggrieved white bigots because he'll keep those radical blacks and their identity politics in check. He's been dancing around the message for years." That was just one of many horrific takes that I will spare you, but I think you get the idea. Sanders, to his credit at least, stuck by Rogan's endorsement with his campaign saying, quote, "Sharing a big tent requires including those who do not share every one of our beliefs while making it clear that we will never compromise on our values." Wasn't quite enough for the woke establishment left, however, with the Human Rights Campaign president, Alfonso David, expressing dismay, saying that the Sanders campaign must reconsider this endorsement and the decision to publicize the views of someone who has consistently attacked and dehumanized marginalized people. In case you're not familiar with Mr. David, he's the same genius who told me to my face on this show that Donald Trump is the worst president for gay rights in American history, despite the fact that he's openly pro-gay and that George W. Bush that George W. Bush and Bill Clinton and Joe Biden supported the Defense of Marriage Act. Let's take a listen.
A lot has been made of the fact, especially from the right, that this president was the first one to run who was sort of okay with gay marriage, right? Which is true. He was. How does his record and approach compare to other Republican presidents?
This is the worst president on LGBTQ issues ever. The worst.
I don't know how you can say that. The Defense of Marriage Act was passed under the Bush administration.
Correct.
But Donald Trump is openly pro-gay marriage. I mean, I just don't understand. That just seems like a facile and ridiculous claim. MoveOn.org even got in on the action, saying that Sanders must reject Rogan's endorsement and that they stand in solidarity with those hurt by this. Smelling blood in the water, the septuagenarian campaign of Joe Biden sprung into action, or let's be honest, one of his social media staffers did. Biden's account launched this salvo at Sanders, quote, "Let's be clear, transgender equality is the civil rights issue of our time. There is no room for compromise when it comes to basic human rights." This was truly the icing on the cake, and it encapsulated the complete hypocrisy of all the people involved. These are cynical, woke actors. They don't give a damn about Joe Rogan or Bernie Sanders. They want to destroy anybody who does not buy into their identitarian frame of politics. They're not shy about stooping to these disgusting lows to do so. Joe Biden, for example, voted for the Defense of Marriage Act in 1996, which defined marriage as between one man and one woman. Biden also ascended to the vice presidency of the United States in 2008 without any public support of gay marriage. The Human Rights Campaign is just trying to justify its own existence with this nonsense and make it so that they control all of our exact speech. Move on? I don't even have words for how stupid their tweet is. But all of this was abetted and spread by blue check marks in the mainstream media and reporters from all the major outlets in the New York Times and the Washington Post. As I tweeted at the time, none of this has anything to do with Joe Rogan or Bernie Sanders. This is about power. Joe Rogan has a bigger and more engaged platform than most of the people in the mainstream media combined. The internet has shifted the power dynamics, so he is now more kingmaker than ever. So for all of us, I think we can just laugh at the last gasp of an old world order that's crumbling before our eyes. And we can keep refreshing the page to see when the next episode of the Joe Rogan Experience is up and he addresses all of this. It was so ridiculous, Crystal, to see Biden, a guy who did not publicly support gay marriage when he was vice president of the United States in 2008, voted for the Defense of Marriage Act, come out and apparently, he's like, there's no compromise to be had. You compromise plenty on social issues through your entire campaign. That's like your whole ethos is about working with segregationists and others in order to get things done. Well, that's all you've done in your entire career.
Part of this that I love is obviously the Biden campaign is like grasping. They're seeing the bottom fall out from under them here in the last couple of weeks. And so they're trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders and be like the ultra woke candidate. He says that trans rights are the civil rights of our time. Great, agree. However, you literally worked with the people who are working against the actual, the original civil rights.
That's what I mean, is they
and
don't
bragged
care.
about it in this campaign.
It's all
just
fake.
So obvious, not to mention the fact that Biden, Warren, and Pete all begged to go on Joe's podcast. So it was all fine as long as he was going to have them on.
That's
But now
exactly
that
right.
it helps a rival,
Now that it helps
it's
him,
a problem.
he's got to
right?
kneecap him. Yeah, I mean,
And also, these are the people who, in this era, in the Trump era, they celebrate all these people who lied us into war, who sanctioned torture. All of that is fine. But if you even associate with someone who said something problematic, then you have to, you have to go and apologize, et cetera, et cetera. I love to move on saying, for all the people who were hurt by this, who was hurt? Like, literally find me the person,
be
the
careful,
actual
Crystal.
person who was like,
no, I mean, that's what the left says. Words are violence and all this other ridiculous stuff. That's what the Human Rights Campaign and all these other people are trying they're trying to push this so they control the discourse. Why is Sanders and Trump and any economic populist, why is it a fundamental threat to their control of politics? It's because, as we've covered here, is that class issues are race issues, but they want race and gender issues to be totally confined away from the hundreds of millions of dollars and all of the donations that the Human Rights Campaign gets, that the MoveOn.org gets, and these are corporate tools. They are not actual people who support a real agenda.
Well, and it would be one thing. Bernie has been an ally to these communities long before
that's the other part
this was acceptable at all in mainstream discourse, right? I mean, no one has a more rock solid record in terms of support and being an ally to the LGBTQ community. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. And what's remarkable about getting the support of someone like Rogan, who doesn't maybe agree with all those things, is Bernie didn't compromise his values to do that. That should be something that we are celebrating. It'd be one thing if he went on and pandered to or compromised his beliefs, changed his position, but no, he didn't do that. He still stands for everything he stood for, but is able to attract a set of voters that maybe aren't on board with all of that. That's a great thing, and they know that, which is why they're freaking out so much.
It's a fundamental threat. They have to cancel anybody who doesn't buy into their narrative, who doesn't buy into their speech, and doesn't buy into their frame of politics, because economic populism is a direct threat to the grift that all of these people have and have had for so long in our politics.
Exactly right. All right, more Rising after this.